I finally got my hands on my first Batman figure. I've been wanting one for a while, and I've just been sort of looking for figures that really catch my eye. And I'm a big fan of Detective Comics 1000, so when I saw that version of Batman from McFarlane Toys, I thought I'd give it a go. So my first Batman and my first McFarlane Toys. Let's get stuck into it. Hi all, Chris here. I've been wanting a Batman figure for a while, and I don't see this as being the quintessential Batman figure by any means. But I saw this figure on the shelf, Detective Comics 1000, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to see what it's like. Big fan of that issue. You know, for anyone that doesn't know, it was a really big issue, and it had loads of different writers and artists putting together a number of little short stories that go into that issue. Got people like Brian Michael Bendis, Scott Snyder, Jeff Johns, Kevin Smith, among others. There are loads that I can't even think of right now, but really good issue of Batman. Really enjoyed reading that for the first time. Back in 2019, I think it came out. So I saw this on the shelf and I thought, you know what? You know, I haven't got a McFarlane's toy in my collection, and I've always been fascinated by this toy brand, and I see, you know, new figures coming out all of the time for McFarlane, so I really want to see whether or not it's worth getting into collecting them. And maybe you can tell me in the comments if it's worth diving into McFarlane toys a little bit more, because I'm not averse to it. I think there's some really interesting figures coming out of that brand, specifically from DC. And I know that Hasbro have now got some licenses that have gone across to McFarlane as well. And I've seen some Transformers and G.I. Joe figures starting to be announced. But anyway, let's get stuck into this Batman. I'm going to have a look first at the box. And, you know, I love the sort of open blister packs on these. Nice and simple. I always like to be able to see what I'm getting before I get it paint job wise. And I like the colours of this. You know, fairly straightforward. And I know that it's fairly standard across DC figures, these boxes. The black with the blue and white accents. So yeah, I like that I can see everything that comes in it. So that's really nice on the front. The sides are pretty standard, not particularly exciting, but on one side we're able to see exactly what version of Batman this is. As I said, Detective Comics 1000. And on the back, I really like that there is sort of cover art of that issue on here. That's really interesting, as opposed to just filling it with more photos or more digital renderings of what the figure looks like with accessories in hand. So I like that they kind of push in the comic angle to it as well, and I respect that because more people should be getting into comics and reading them. So yeah, quite happy with that box. Looks really nice. Nothing crazy, nothing special. But let's get it out. Let's have a look at him in hand. So we have Batman and his accessories stood up here. And we'll start by taking a look at the figure first. So let's grab him here. And let's get the focus on there. And I'm quite impressed with the paint job for starters. I mean, I love the grey look to a Batman suit. I always have loved that sort of grey and black. I don't like how his arms don't really sit by his sides. I guess that's part of the sort of musculature on the tops of the arms and the waist that mean that the arms don't sit down right. Kind of a basic look to the bat suit's pretty basic at times anyway, but I do like the side detail on the legs there. That's quite nice. And I also like the look of the wrists there as well with the spikes on them. And this cape's quite nice. It doesn't sit flat, I suppose. It's more stylized to look like the cape is kind of blowing in the wind, but it's a lovely rubbery material, so it does flow a little bit better than it just being plastic. And I'm quite impressed with this head sculpt. Again, for Batman, it's fairly minimal. It is sort of an artist's look at Batman as opposed to sort of a live action rendering that you might see on other figures. But I don't hate that. It does, on the side though, it does give a little bit of like a pinhead look to it. But no, I don't hate that. I think that's quite nice. Again, I think the black is quite clean. Decent head movement on this Batman. Side to side and a little bit of up and down on there as well. Probably better movement on this Batman figure than if you're wearing the suit for real. Yeah, again, I'm not crazy about these arms sitting as they do. It's an odd one really, but I can see loads of articulation there. Again, yeah, the cape doesn't let the T-pose flow very well. You know, I can't get it into a decent T, but decent double joints on the elbows, and that moves so cleanly. I love the little click that you get on that, and really good movement in the wrists as well. I love the little ball joint on the wrist there, so I love that. And there is a little bit of swivel as well at the top of the arms, so I'm loving the level of articulation moving down sort of the arms themselves. And if we have a look at the legs, fairly similar. There is a double joint in the knee, which I'm very pleased with. That's great. Yeah, I like the look of that. Let's just get that back in there. So yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. And decent movement in the ankles as well, much like the wrists. There's a ball joint on there, so there's a good amount of twist and spin on that joint there. Oh, look at this. Always love having a toe joint. I always think that gives you so much more flexibility with regards to your articulation, and reasonably good movement at the hips as well. That's not too bad at all. And so yeah, mixture. Okay, yeah, I love the movement on the torso as well. Not much of an ab crunch, but I reckon a bit of modding you could get a bit more out of that. But that's okay. Really good movement in the waist as well. So I think there's a fair level of articulation, but you are definitely going to be limited if you want to get those arms high without a lot of pressure into those joints. But that's the figure itself. So also with the figure, we have a nice DC stand, and this kind of wins me over. So many figures that you get within this kind of price point, you don't get a stand for them. So I love that you get a black stand with DC printed on it as well. Well done, McFarlane. I love that. And I understand that those who are regular McFarlane collectors are probably watching this video thinking, of course they do, but this is all new to me. Yeah, I love the gun here as well. The grapple gun, the grapnel launcher, really nice. I love the little bat at the end of that. It's really clean, nice silver colour. So that's awesome. And that it's sort of an emotion accessory as well, with it sort of firing out. And the batarang looks really good as well. I'm not sure how functional this would be. It's like throwing a breeze block at somebody. But yeah, it looks really cool. The bat's a nice shape, and I'm sure that will sit in hand fairly well because it feels like it's quite a weighty accessory. But that's it, really, for accessories. We just have this collectible card here as well, showing the front cover of Detective Comics 1000, a little bit of a blurb on Batman there as well, just in case you aren't aware who Batman is. So yeah, really impressed with it so far. Let's get him into some poses and talk a little bit more about what we think. Yeah, so just to talk about Batman on his own a little bit here. The things I love first. So I really like the colour scheme and the paint application in general. I'm always a huge fan of the grey suit. So the grey and black does it for me. I love the yellow utility belt on here as well. So the colours kind of pop, even though it feels very monotone. Huge bat symbol on his chest, and it does kind of resemble the Batman from Detective Comics 1000, although with the varying art styles there are various versions of Batman from that one issue as well. I like the style of the cape, so I like the rubber feel, and I don't hate the way that it's sort of set to be flowing, moving. You know, it's an in motion cape to a certain extent. However, I don't know, there's something about it that it just feels a little thin. You know, when you're looking at Batman head on, the cape just doesn't look like a particularly big cape when it's sitting like that, because it kind of bunches up where his waist is. I know it flares out a lot at the bottom, and I like that as well. But I also think with these rubber capes, if you're getting into more of a crouched, perched position, this cape's probably going to catch on the ground wherever you've positioned him, unless he's sort of sitting on a little pole or on a perch where the cape can sort of flow behind him. Not a huge fan of how the cape bunches on his shoulders and prevents his arms from moving, and kind of his arms in general, the way that they sit at his side. As I said earlier, I guess that this is something to do with the way that they've sculpted the muscles on the tops of his arms and on his chest, and how sort of the two clash a little bit and prevent his arms from going fully down. Not going to be a great issue when you've got him in positions, you've got him in poses, but just for if you wanted his arms down, or at least one arm down, it can be a little bit unusual. The head sculpt I like. As I said, it's very minimal, and it's one of those where it's easy to not make any mistakes with a head sculpt that's got that little detail on it. But that being said, it does still, for me, give the impression that his head is slightly smaller than the rest of his body. Feels like it's not quite in proportional, though. I'm sure it is. It just gives that feel when you're looking at him. And very little detail on the face itself. But as I said earlier, it's obviously not trying to replicate a live action human face. This is comic accurate look. So no, I don't hate that. It's just not one of my favourite features. Love the white eyes though Always love having the plain white eyes on here. Gives me real Batman Animated Series vibes, which is never a bad thing. We'll have a quick look at the accessories in hand as well, because I think they look really impressive. This grapnel launcher, I think, is really awesome. You know, I love how it looks as though it is being fired out and unraveling as we see it. So yeah, I do enjoy that. It kind of limits the usage of it as an accessory to a certain extent, I suppose, because it's not like it can be posed with it in hand and not firing. It is just, you know, it is a firing item, so it can only be posed as if he is using it, if that makes sense. You know, he can't just be posed with it with his hand by his side. But I do like it. I think it's a well painted and well detailed bit of kit. I think likewise with the Batarang. Looks good in hand, fits really easily in hand as well. Just not the most exciting accessory. And I think that's probably one of the things that I don't love about this figure, and perhaps McFarlane in general. You'll have to let me know in the comments. Not a great deal of accessories. And I love, as you might have seen in my previous videos, I love having a load of different accessories that give me posability options, and not so much in this. In my head, I play it off as in, it's the kind of compromise that you make with these figures, that they are, you know, they're so, in the way that they're made, there's so much articulation, so much more articulation than a lot of figures at this price point, and perhaps you lose a little bit in the way of additional accessories to get that extra level of detail and function out of the figure itself. So in general, I don't think I would have an issue with that in future. I think perhaps I'd just be a little bit more choosy in which ones I buy, because I want the accessories that I can maybe match up with other figures, as opposed to buying a figure that has, you know, the same Batarang in it, or, you know, if sort of replicating the few accessories that I do have. But in general, really like this figure. I think it creates a really effective silhouette, and I think in motion that cape really sings as well. So it's not my favourite figure by any means, but it also wouldn't put me off purchasing more McFarlane figures. I think the level of articulation on these are awesome. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this figure. You'll have to let me know in the comments, has anyone else got this version of Batman? Or if not, tell me, what's the quintessential McFarlane Batman for you? I'd really like to know, because I'd really like to buy it. So yeah, tell me in the comments. And just to let you know as well, I have bought a version of Joker as well to go with this Batman figure on my shelf. So whilst I'm still looking at other DC toys to purchase, I'd love to get myself a Superman in future, but for now I really wanted something to go with Batman that really made sense, so the Joker was an easy choice. Please drop a like on this video if you've enjoyed it, and please also consider subscribing to my channel for more reviews and news. As I say, my Joker video will be up fairly soon as well from this McFarlane range. We've got loads of other stuff coming, so please join our community by hitting that subscribe button. But regardless, thank you for joining me today. And if you're interested in Batman figures specifically, why not take a look at this Mezco video next? Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you all take care. Bye-bye now.